where it covers men and women.
Okay.
Don't you hate that thing where they use a plural pronoun and a singular verb, or vice versa? Horrible. But yes, I started that in 1994 when I was living in Wanganui actually at the time, and I kept that up for about 12 years. Peter Cresswell is the editor now, and he's doing a sterling job. It's still there, but that's what it was. It was an advocate of, or there for the advocacy of individual liberty.
And individual liberty in the face of predatory governments, basically.
Yes, it's really only governments. Governments have a legal monopoly on the use of force. So, I mean, obviously murderers and rapists, etc., are a threat to your freedom, but that's what government's there for, to stop those.
There seems to be, if I might use the term, an elitist thread, almost a thread like Plato's Republic. That there is there's a stratification of. Well, no, you've lined up Ayn Rand with Aristotle, but it seems to be also the Platonic notion of a stratified society in which there are people who are destined to rule and there are people who are destined to be at the bottom.
No, the very opposite.
Right.
What do you mean by rule?
Run the country.
No, we elect them.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of destiny.
Yeah.
We elect them as we do now, but we severely limit the scope of what they can do.
Yeah.
They are there to serve us, not to rule us, not to dictate how we live our lives, but to protect our rights.
They should manage the place.
Do that.
Yeah.
And as far as everything else is concerned, well, that's over to the marketplace, and you will rise as high as your ability takes you. And if you're not particularly ambitious and you're content with less, well, you're allowed to have less. There's no sort of enforced redistribution so that we all get the same amount of pay, as in Fidel Castro's Cuba, when a brain surgeon gets the same pay, or did until recently. I think that's one of the recent reforms, as a rubbish collector.
You have spoken out very strongly against Barack Obama. Now, of all the American presidents, since perhaps John Kennedy, he's the one who's received the most adulation. Maybe partly as a relief of he's no longer George Bush, but you come out very recently and called him the anti-American president, and you think that he's undermining every good thing that America stands for.
He is. Yeah. He is the anti-American president, which is a play on the movie of the title, the American President. He's the anti-American president. He, at a fundamental level, and this is why I single him out. You know, there are lots of things you can criticize other presidents for. But at a fundamental level, he is against what America was founded on, the right to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. He is for government taking all that over. And we've seen in the fewer than 100 days still, when I wrote what you just quoted, government expands in a way that probably, if you took all the other presidents combined, he's outdone them in that short time. And somebody, I forget who, said of him just recently, if America's enemies want to destroy America, they'd better get on with it before Barack Obama does it for them.
Okay, but he might plead a special case. He's got a real big problem on his plate that hasn't happened really since the 30s.
Oh, well, he does indeed. But you see, all the more reason to ask him, plead with him, but it shouldn't be necessary to do that, to go back to America's founding principles. You don't solve a problem that was caused by government intervention in the first place, which it was, if you go right back to the subprime loans and why they were occurring. You don't fix that and the things that result from it with more of the same.
But was it, with the subprime loans debacle, it wasn't so much that the government interfered as the government took the hands off the steering wheel. They deregulated.
No. But the government pressured the banks to give out these loans to people who couldn't afford to pay them. The Community Reinvestment Act, which was Jimmy Carter, and then strengthened by Clinton, and then later re-invoked by Bush, so it doesn't really matter whether it's Democrat or Republican. They all have this itch to expand the power of government, so and they have government do so-called good things.
So you're not criticising Obama for causing the current problem, but that he's
obviously he didn't cause the current problem.
In fact, it was the very right-wing governments, if you like. It was the George Bush on whose watch it broke out.
On whose watch, but you know, they were aware of the looming problem 2 years or so before, and you know, one of the people who actually sounded the alarm bells was John McCain, and I was astonished at why he didn't make more of that during the election campaign. I thought his campaign, I was in America at the time, was about the most pitiful I've seen, and you know, you could tell a mile off that Barack was going to win because he has such
McCain didn't have his heart in it.
quality. I'd love for Barack Obama to be on my side because with the attributes that he has, but he's just, everything he's done, with the exception of capturing the pirates, has horrified me.
Wasn't Sarah Palin, the 2IC to John McCain, wasn't she one of the darlings of Fox News?
Yes.
But she turned out to be disastrous for McCain.
I think McCain was disastrous for McCain, frankly. I think in the end, Sarah Palin turned out to be irrelevant. Nobody could save McCain from himself. And I think at the time he made that selection, everyone realised he was going to have to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And I guess some would say he pulled a bunny out of the hat.
Indeed, yes.
But, you know, I think she got a bum rap from the media, and they focused on every little flub that she made. And of course she made a lot.
Indeed.
But I gather she's working on a comeback for 3 or 4 years' time, and we'll see what happens.
But what Obama seems to be doing, apart from the special things he feels he's got to do to address the current problem, he promotes a mixed economy rather than the pure 19th century pure capitalism. There's a nostalgia, isn't there, for going back to the 19th century where every man who could carve out a fortune could and no one could get in their way. Isn't that passé?
Well, I don't care if it's passé. It's still good.
Yeah. What about the folks at the bottom? Why are they there?
Well, the bottom gets raised. The more productivity there is, the more wealth there is, as Obama would have it, to spread around, the better the bottom do. I mean, we just say, and that's good, just put the gun away. Don't actually hold out a gun and hold it to the heads of people who've made money and say, oh, I'm going to take some of that from you and give it to these people over here. Because all you do is encourage these people over here to do nothing because they realise they don't have to do anything. And they breed, and they breed more people with that mentality, and bingo, you've got a problem on your hands.
So that almost sounds as though they kind of like being there and all they need is the funding to stay where they are. Don't people, given the appropriate incentives, want to raise their own lifestyles?
Yes. Well, exactly. You proved my point.
Yeah. But you're saying giving them what you might call welfare handouts is a disincentive to improving themselves.
Yes.
They're not just help to get them where they want to go, like help with housing and help with.
Well, that's fine. If you want to help, what we say is go ahead and help. No one's stopping you. But understand, it's the compulsion, it's the coercion, and that has to be banished from for human existence to be called civilized. Force must be banished. And it doesn't matter how noble you think what you are using force for is. Force bad.
Because we have something of an echo here of Roosevelt's New Deal, what Obama's doing, and Ayn Rand really disagreed with Roosevelt's New Deal.
Yes.
Yeah, she put it down to collectivism, altruism, and statism. These were all negative.
Right.
Even though his intention was a good one, was to put the country back on its feet.
Yeah.
And so the intention wasn't good enough. Did he not deliver the appropriate things?
Well, no, he didn't actually. If you study the period, contrary to what most people come out of school thinking, he made it worse. At best, he delayed the recovery. At worst, he made it worse and prolonged it. And what saved him in the end was World War II. But again, to answer your question, the moral issue is, yes, she objected to it, A, because it's economically nonsensical, but B, it's immoral. And she was primarily a moralist, and she objected